When I was young, I thought my uncle was the epitome of cool. He was the one who handed me my first. Top Reddit tailies, I asked questions, scribbled notes, arrived at meetings well before they started, and I paid attention, truly listened. By age 31, I was leading the entire regional office. 3 months later, another promotion came my way, Vice President of Operations. That gave me the final word on hiring decisions, especially for roles in my division. I never let the authority go to my head. I stayed focused, kept working hard. But 2 weeks ago, while reviewing resumes late at night with a cooling cup of coffee, a name caught my eye, Victor Hale. My pulse quickened. My fingers lingered over the keyboard. I clicked to open the file. Surely it was a coincidence, wasn't it? But there it was, his full name, date of birth, and even a small photo with that familiar, easy grin. Older now, with grayer hair and a thinner frame, but unmistakably him. His cover letter was bland, overly generic, listing the job title and a vague mention of seeking new opportunities in a stable organization with growth potential. I sat there staring at the screen, rereading it. Something stirred deep inside, not quite anger, but a rush of unresolved feelings. It wasn't just that he applied, it was that he clearly didn't recognize the company's name. Or worse, he didn't think I'd be in a position to matter. To him, I was probably still just Buddy, the kid who once idolized him. His work history was spotty. Recent years showed short-term jobs, gaps, a couple of layoffs, and a lukewarm reference from some old contact in Michigan. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't standout either. He was applying for a mid-level logistics role, decent enough to cover the bills. I sat there, letting the moment sink in. For a decade, I'd carried the quiet pain of being discarded, the bitter realization that I wasn't true family to him. I'd buried it under career milestones and busy schedules, under holidays spent with people who showed up. Now, as if fate was playing a trick, here he was, unknowingly crossing my path. I could have sent his file to HR and let the process run its course, but I didn't. Instead, I moved his application to the priority queue, flagged it, and sent a note to my assistant. Schedule this interview. I'll handle it myself. Wednesday, 3 p.m. All week, I rehearsed what I might say. Should I let him speak first, see if he even recognized me? Should I play the part of a detached professional, making him earn every answer? Or should I confront him the moment he walked in? It felt like I was preparing for a role I'd been scripting for years. But deep down, a part of me still hoped for something genuine. Maybe he'd express regret. Maybe he'd mention missing my wedding. Maybe he'd call me Buddy again. Wednesday arrived quickly. I wore my best suit, not for show, but to feel grounded in control. I told my assistant to close the blinds and keep the room silent. At 2:58, there was a knock. 2 quick taps, one hesitant. I cleared my throat and said, "Come in." He opened the door cautiously, as if unsure he was in the right place. Our eyes locked, a moment of silence. His forehead creased slightly, then he squinted, puzzled, searching my face. "Evan," I said, unmoving, unsmiling. I nodded once. "Take a seat." He looked like he'd seen a specter. I pointed to the chair across from me and he sat, stiffly, slowly. His hands shook faintly as he straightened his resume on the table. "Wow," he said at last. "I didn't expect you here." I leaned back, studying him. "Same," he chuckled nervously, trying to lighten the mood. "It's been, what, 10 years?" "Almost exactly," I replied, my tone even. He looked at me again, his eyes betraying unease. "You've done well for yourself." "I earned it," I said plainly. "No one handed me anything." He nodded, his smile fading. "Right." A heavy pause followed. He glanced around the room, then back at me. "So, are you the one hiring?" "I'm the vice president," I said, "and today I'm conducting your interview." That's when it hit him. His face changed, not quite fear, but something close. Maybe regret, maybe shame. "I didn't know this was your company," he said quickly. "I swear I wouldn't have," I raised a hand. "Let's start with your resume." He blinked, thrown off. "We'll review it," I said, calm and deliberate. "Like we would with any candidate." He hesitated, then nodded. "All right." I opened his file and turned to the first page. My voice was steady as I asked, "Tell me, Victor, how do you handle facing someone you once overlooked when they're now the one across the table?" His mouth opened, then closed, as if his thoughts couldn't keep up. I watched the emotions flicker in his eyes. Confusion, recognition, embarrassment, and a hint of that old, stubborn pride trying to resurface. He sat up straighter and cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to overlook anyone. If I did something—" "You did," I cut in, my voice firm but not loud. "You texted me on my wedding day, said you were tied up with real family." He flinched as if I'd struck him. "That was years ago, Evan. I was in a bad place." "You didn't call," I said quietly. Didn't reply to the invitation, not a word until that text, and nothing since until now. He leaned forward, all remorse now. I know I screwed up, he said. Your dad and I had our differences, and I let that spill over. I was angry, felt excluded, and I thought you'd be okay without me. I gave a sharp, humorless laugh. You thought I'd be okay? I was okay. I didn't need you. But that's not the issue. You made me feel like I was nothing, like all the times you called me buddy, gave me that watch, sent those cards. It was all empty. His face softened for a moment, but then he forced a smile. Evan, I came here for a job. I didn't know you'd be here. I'm not trying to reopen old wounds. You don't get to choose that, I said, my voice sharper now. You skipped my wedding. You didn't check in when my dad was sick. You didn't even reach out when he died, and now you're here acting like it's just another day. He blinked, startled. Wait, your dad passed? 2 years ago, I said. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed and gone in months. I didn't know, he said, his voice small. No one told me. That's odd, I replied, because I sent the obituary to the same number you used to text me that wedding day. It went through. No response? He didn't answer, just stared at the edge of my desk, as if it held some explanation he couldn't find. The silence grew heavy. I thought about ending it there, closing his file and dismissing him with a polite excuse. But something in me wanted more, not vengeance, but understanding, maybe closure. I flipped through his resume again. Why this job? Why here? Why now? He looked up, caught off guard. Because I need a fresh start. The last few years have been tough. After the divorce, my last company went under. I've been trying to rebuild. This place has a solid reputation. I thought it could be a chance to start again. A fresh start, I said softly. Nice concept, he nodded. Everyone deserves one. I closed the folder slowly. They do, but starting over means facing what came before, owning it, not ignoring it. He leaned forward. Evan, I'm sorry. I really am. I know I let you down, he said. I thought staying away was better than facing how much I'd already failed you. I let his words hang in the air. I studied the man before me, the one who once called me buddy with warmth, who taught me card tricks, who missed the biggest moments of my life. Now he sat there, suit slightly creased, hands fidgeting, hoping for a chance from the kid he'd left behind. I don't need an apology, I said at last. But I do need the truth. Why didn't you come to the wedding? Really? His mouth opened, then closed. I'm not looking for sympathy, I added. I just want to know. He exhaled heavily. I was envious. It sounds pathetic, but seeing you succeed, college, love, career, it made me feel small. I didn't know how to face you without feeling like a failure. That hit me unexpectedly. I hadn't anticipated such raw honesty. He continued, and I didn't think you'd care if I wasn't there. I cared, I said quietly. I waited, he nodded, eyes downcast, and I was wrong. I stood, letting the moment settle. He remained seated, uncertain. So what now? He asked. I walked to the window, opened the blinds, and let the afternoon light flood the room. Then I turned to him, my face neutral. I'll let you know. He sat still, as if unsure whether he'd been given hope or a delayed judgment. His hands were clasped tightly, knuckles pale. Finally, he cleared his throat. Thank you for considering it. I didn't expect any of this. I didn't reply immediately. I returned to my chair, sat, and studied him, searching for sincerity or performance. Was he truly remorseful or just desperate? You said you were envious, I said eventually. That my success made you feel small, but that doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain a decade of silence, or why you couldn't call when my father, your brother, was dying. His jaw twitched. I was ashamed. I thought I'd ruined things, and by the time I wanted to reach out, it felt too late. I told myself you were better off without me. You decided that for me, I said, holding his gaze. I know, he said, and I was wrong. I sat quietly, letting his words linger. There was no grand emotional outburst, no tearful speech, just the hum of the air conditioner and the weight of years between us. My chest tightened, the kid inside me wanting to shout, to demand why he'd abandoned us, why he'd left my dad to face death alone. But the man I'd become was calmer, more measured. I didn't want anger. I wanted resolution. And maybe a bit of control. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out something I hadn't touched in years. The old Elgin watch. Its band was worn, the face scratched, but it still ticked. I set it on the desk between us without a word. His eyes widened. You still have this? You gave it to me when I was 10, I said. Said I was buddy, that I needed to know the time to stay ahead. I remember, he said, his voice thick. I tapped the watch's glass. This thing kept going through everything. Even when the band frayed, even when you vanished, even when I tried to forget you. He stared at it as if it held something holy or haunted. You don't get a clean slate, I said softly. Not yet. But maybe you can earn one. He looked up. What do you mean? I slid his resume toward him. There's a short-term warehouse job, early shifts, tough work. You'll report to someone younger than you and I won't be checking in. It's not the logistics role you applied for that's off the table, but if you're serious about a fresh start, you'll take what's offered and work your way up. He nodded slowly. Okay, that's reasonable. It's not about reasonable, I said. It's about whether you can handle starting small. There was a long pause, then he picked up the watch, turning it over in his hands. I can't believe you kept this. I don't know why I did, I admitted. Maybe I thought you'd come back for it, or for me. He looked like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. Instead, he set the watch down and stood. If I get the job, I won't let you down. I didn't smile or nod. I just said, we'll see. He walked to the door, paused, and turned back. Thank you, he said quietly, then left. The door closed softly, leaving the office still. I sat there, staring at the Elgin. It kept ticking, steady as ever. Something in me had shifted, not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer than anger when I thought of Uncle Victor. Then my phone rang. I answered, expecting a routine update. Instead, my assistant's voice was hesitant. Evan, someone's here, says he's your cousin, needs to speak with you urgently. My brow furrowed. Cousin? Yeah, his name's Caleb. Says it's about Victor, something important. I paused, the line humming in my ear. Caleb, I hadn't thought of him in years. The last time I saw him, I was maybe 15. He was Victor's son from his first marriage, a quiet kid who stayed close to his mom at family gatherings. Back then, Victor was still larger than life, the center of every story. Caleb had been a shadow by comparison. Send him in, I said, hanging up. 2 minutes later, the door opened. A tall, lean man stepped in, no older than 25. He had Victor's dark eyes but a reserved demeanor, like someone unused to taking up space. Evan, he asked, voice tentative. I stood. Caleb, right? He nodded and closed the door. Thanks for seeing me. I know this is out of the blue. You're not wrong, I said. Sit. He sat in the same chair Victor had used, his eyes briefly catching the Elgin before meeting mine. It's about my dad, he said, cutting to the chase. I waited, saying nothing. He didn't tell you everything, Caleb said. He never does, I raised an eyebrow. Go on. He took a breath. 3 months ago, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, early stages, but it's moving faster than the doctors thought. He's been hiding it from everyone. He's scared. I leaned back, stunned. My mind raced, picturing Victor at family barbecues, full of energy, now grappling with a fading body. Why didn't he tell me? I asked, my voice steady. Because he's Victor Hale, Caleb said, a trace of bitterness in his tone. He'd rather die than admit he's weak. Page 8, he thought if he could land the job on his own, he might earn your respect quietly, Caleb continued. It'd be less humiliating than begging for help. I didn't respond. My thoughts churned, Victor, vibrant and unbreakable, now concealing a disease. I know he hurt you, Caleb said softly. He hurt me too. I barely saw him after the divorce, but the man you knew as a kid, he wasn't pretending. He loved you. He just broke somewhere along the way and he doesn't know how to admit it. I looked at Caleb, searching for any hint of manipulation. But his eyes held only tired honesty, like someone who'd carried a burden too long. Why tell me now? I asked. Because he'd never tell you, Caleb said, and I couldn't watch him drown in his own pride. You deserved the whole story before deciding. I nodded slowly. All right, thanks for coming, he stood, hesitant. I'll go. Wait, I said. I picked up the phone. Hey, pull Victor Hale's onboarding packet. Move him from the warehouse to internal logistics. Same pay grade, different duties. Have it ready by end of day. A pause. Anything else? Yes, add him to the company insurance plan immediately, pre-existing conditions or not. I'll handle the details. I hung up and looked at Caleb. He blinked. You're giving him the job? I'm giving him a chance, I said. One with conditions, Caleb nodded. He won't mess it up. He might, I said bluntly. But I'd rather regret being kind than regret being harsh. Caleb gave a small, grateful smile. Thank you. I handed him the Elgin. Give this back to him, tell him it still ticks. Even after everything. He took it carefully like it was fragile. I will. He left without another word. A week later, Victor started. I didn't tell him I knew about his condition or Caleb's visit. He showed up in a slightly oversized company polo, carrying a battered thermos that looked decades old. He worked diligently, kept his head down, and only spoke to me with a polite, "Good morning, sir." I observed from afar. He didn't slack, he didn't grumble, and he never used my name to gain favor. After 2 weeks, I called him into my office. He sat stiffly, hands clasped like he was facing a tribunal. You're doing solid work, I said. Page 9, your supervisor says you're reliable, organized, and keep to yourself. He gave a faint smile. Keeping quiet's my strength these days. I slid a folder across the desk. I'm moving you to supply chain coordination. More hours, better pay, flexible schedule if you need time off. He stared at the folder, then looked up. You know, don't you? I nodded. Caleb told me. He looked away, eyes glistening. Of course he did. That kid's got more honor than I'll ever deserve. I didn't promote you out of pity, I said. I did it because I'm done waiting for the past to fix itself. I'd rather build something from what's left. He didn't speak, just stared at his hands. And Victor, I said, he looked up. I'm not your buddy anymore. I'm a man with my own name, my own life. You'll respect that if you want to stay in it. He nodded slowly. I understand. Good, we're done here. He stood, took the folder, and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. I still think about that day at the park, he said softly. When I gave you the watch, you were so thrilled, jumping around like you'd won the world. I didn't respond. I know I can't fix what I broke, he said, but I'm glad the watch still ticks. He left. Over the next few months, things shifted quietly. Victor didn't push his way into my life. He didn't act like everything was fine. He showed up early, stayed late. I'd see him joking with the warehouse team, sharing snacks, or helping with heavy loads. One day, I passed the break room and saw him teaching someone a one-handed card shuffle, the same trick he taught me at 10. He never called me buddy again, but on my birthday, a small, neatly wrapped box appeared on my desk. Inside was a new Elgin, same model, same silver face. Engraved on the back, time doesn't erase the past, but it offers a chance. I kept both watches in my drawer after that, the old and the new, side by side. Sometimes, in the quiet of the office, I'd take them out and listen to them tick. Not perfectly in sync, but close enough. And maybe that was enough. Not perfect, just close enough.